Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. Now, let's begin. Rachel wiped her hands on her kitchen towel, the afternoon sun streaming through the window of her quiet home. At 68 years old, she'd grown accustomed to the silence. It had been 3 years since her husband passed, and she'd learned to fill her days with small routines: gardening, reading, volunteering at the community center. The phone rarely rang anymore, so when it did that Thursday afternoon, shrill and insistent, she jumped slightly, startled from her thoughts. "Mom?" The voice on the other end was barely recognizable. Rachel's heart clenched. It was Lena, her daughter. They hadn't spoken in months, maybe longer. The distance between them had grown over the years, built from old arguments and unspoken resentments. "Lena, honey, what's wrong?" There was a pause, then a shaky breath. "It's Ellie." "Mom, something's wrong with Ellie." Rachel gripped the phone tighter. Ellie, her granddaughter, 6 years old now, a little girl she barely knew because of the distance she'd allowed to grow between herself and her daughter. "What do you mean? Is she sick?" "No, it's not." Lena's voice cracked. "She won't sleep. She cries every night. She's terrified of the dark. She won't stay in her room alone. I don't know what to do anymore, Mom. I'm so tired. I just can't do this by myself." Rachel heard something in her daughter's voice she hadn't heard in years. Genuine desperation. Not anger, not the defensive wall Lena usually put up, just exhaustion and fear. "Where's her father?" Rachel asked quietly. "He's not in the picture. You know that." Lena's voice hardened slightly, then softened again. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it like that. I'm drowning here." Rachel closed her eyes. All the old guilt came rushing back. The harsh words she'd said when Lena got pregnant young. The judgment, the distance she'd imposed when her daughter needed her most. "I'm coming," Rachel said suddenly. "What?" "I'm coming to see you. To help. Give me 2 days to arrange things here." "Mom, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." Rachel's voice was firm now. "I should have been there a long time ago." "2 days, Lena." There was silence on the line, then a whispered, "Okay." After they hung up, Rachel stood in her kitchen for a long moment, staring at nothing. Something in Lena's voice had frightened her, not just the exhaustion, but something else, something underneath. She walked to her bedroom and pulled out her old suitcase from the closet. As she began folding clothes, her hands trembled slightly. She thought of Ellie, a little girl she'd only seen in photos over the past few years. A child who was afraid of the dark, who cried every night. What could make a 6-year-old so frightened? Rachel tried to push the question away, but it lingered as she packed. That night, she barely slept. In the darkness of her own room, she kept thinking about her granddaughter, alone and scared, and she kept hearing the tremor in Lena's voice. "I can't do this by myself." 2 days later, Rachel locked her front door and drove toward a city 3 hours away, toward a daughter she'd failed and a granddaughter she barely knew. She had no idea what she would find when she arrived, but something deep in her chest told her that whatever it was, it wouldn't be simple. Rachel pulled up to the small duplex just as the sun was setting. The neighborhood was quiet, working class, with chain-link fences and toys scattered in a few yards. Lena's place was at the end of the block, a modest 2-bedroom with peeling paint on the porch railing. Before Rachel could even get out of the car, the front door opened. Lena stood there, thinner than Rachel remembered, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Mom." Lena's voice was flat, guarded. "Hi, sweetheart." Rachel grabbed her bag from the trunk and walked up the cracked sidewalk. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Lena stepped aside to let her in. The living room was cluttered but not dirty, just the chaos of someone barely keeping up. A basket of unfolded laundry sat on the couch. Dishes were stacked in the kitchen sink. Children's books and toys were scattered across the floor. "Sorry about the mess," Lena muttered. "I work 2 jobs now. Day shift at the grocery store, night shift cleaning offices. I barely have time to—" "It's fine," Rachel interrupted gently. "Where's Ellie?" "In her room. She's been quiet all afternoon." Rachel set her bag down and walked down the narrow hallway. The first door on the right was slightly ajar. She knocked softly. "Ellie, it's Grandma Rachel." No answer. Rachel pushed the door open slowly. The room was small, A twin bed with a faded comforter, a dresser covered in crayon drawings, a few stuffed animals lined up against the wall. And there, sitting on the floor in the corner, was a tiny girl with blonde hair and enormous blue eyes. Ellie looked up but didn't speak. She was holding a stuffed rabbit, clutching it tightly to her chest. "Hi, sweetheart," Rachel said softly, kneeling down. "I'm your grandma. Came to visit you and your mom." Ellie stared at her for a long moment, then looked down at the floor. Rachel's heart ached. The child was so still, so quiet. She moved slowly, sitting down on the floor a few feet away, giving Ellie space. "That's a nice rabbit," Rachel said. "Does he have a name?" Ellie nodded but didn't say anything. "Can you tell me his name?" A whisper, barely audible. "Mr. Hops." "Mr. Hops," Rachel repeated with a smile. "That's a wonderful name." Ellie's fingers tightened around the stuffed animal. She glanced toward the door, then back at Rachel. Her eyes were watchful, cautious, too cautious for a 6-year-old. Lena appeared in the doorway. "Ellie, Grandma's going to stay with us for a while. Isn't that nice?" Ellie didn't respond. She just pulled Mr. Hops closer. Rachel stood slowly. "How about we let Ellie play for a bit? Maybe you and I can talk?" Lena nodded, and they stepped into the hallway, leaving the door cracked open. In the kitchen, Lena poured 2 cups of coffee. Her hands shook slightly as she handed one to Rachel. "She's been like this for 2 months," Lena said quietly. "She used to be so bubbly. Now she barely talks. The daycare called last week saying she won't play with the other kids anymore. She just sits by herself." Rachel studied her daughter's face, the exhaustion, the worry. "Have you taken her to a doctor?" "The pediatrician said it might be anxiety. She gave me a referral to a child therapist, but the wait list is 3 months long, and I can't afford the copay anyway." Rachel took a sip of coffee, choosing her words carefully. "You mentioned on the phone that she's afraid of the dark?" "Terrified. She screams if I turn the lights off. She won't sleep unless I'm in the room with her. But I work nights 3 times a week, Mom. I can't—" Lena's voice broke. "I don't know what to do." "Who stays with her when you work at night?" "Gary usually does. He's a friend. He's been really helpful lately." Something in Rachel's chest tightened, but she pushed it aside. "I'm being judgmental. I'm doing it again." "Tell me about Gary," Rachel said carefully. Lena's face softened slightly. "He's been a lifesaver, honestly. We met a few months ago at the grocery store. He comes in every week. We got to talking, and when he found out I was struggling, he offered to help. He fixed the sink, helped with groceries, stays with Ellie when I can't find a sitter. I don't know what I'd do without him." Rachel nodded slowly. "See? He's helping. Stop looking for problems." That night, after Lena left for her shift, Rachel sat with Ellie in the living room. The little girl was curled up on the couch, Mr. Hops in her arms, staring at the television without really watching. Rachel tried to engage her with questions, gentle conversation, but Ellie only gave one-word answers or nods. When bedtime came, Ellie's whole body tensed. "I don't want to go to my room," she whispered. "I'll stay with you," Rachel promised. "I'll sit right here in the chair until you fall asleep." Ellie hesitated, then slowly walked down the hallway. Rachel followed, her heart heavy. As Ellie climbed into bed, Rachel sat in the small chair beside the dresser. She left the lamp on, casting a soft glow across the room. "Grandma?" Ellie's voice was tiny in the dim light. "Yes, sweetheart? Are you going to leave?" "Not tonight. I'll be right here." Ellie pulled the covers up to her chin, her eyes fixed on the doorway, and Rachel watched her granddaughter, this frightened, silent child, and wondered what could make someone so young so afraid. Rachel woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the sound of birds outside. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt the stiffness in her neck from sleeping in the chair, and reality came flooding back. She looked at the bed. Ellie was still asleep, curled into a tight ball, Mr. Hops tucked under her chin. Rachel stood carefully, her joints protesting, and walked quietly to the kitchen. Lena was already there, still in her work clothes, making coffee. "You stayed in her room all night?" Lena asked, surprise in her voice. "I promised her I would." Lena's expression softened, then hardened again, walls going back up. "You don't have to do that every night, Mom. I manage." "I want to help," Rachel said simply. Over the next few days, Rachel settled into a routine. She cleaned the house, did laundry, cooked meals. She tried to give Lena space to rest, to breathe, and she watched Ellie. The child moved through the house like a ghost, quiet, careful, always watching. She didn't run or laugh or play the way children should. When Rachel tried to engage her with games or books, Ellie would participate reluctantly, her responses minimal. Rachel noticed other things too. Ellie wouldn't walk down the hallway alone. She always positioned herself so she could see the front door. At mealtimes, she ate very little, pushing food around her plate. But Rachel kept second-guessing herself. Maybe she's just shy. Maybe I'm not good with children. I wasn't around enough when Lena was young. Maybe I never learned how to connect with kids properly. One afternoon, while Ellie was napping, Rachel mentioned her observations to Lena. She seems very anxious, honey. More than just a phase. Lena's jaw tightened. I know that, Mom. Don't you think I see it? But what am I supposed to do? I can't afford therapy. I can't take time off work. I'm doing the best I can. I know you are, Rachel said quickly. I'm not criticizing. I'm just worried. You're always worried, Lena said, her voice rising. You always see problems everywhere. Maybe Ellie's just going through a difficult time. Kids do that. She'll grow out of it. Rachel opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. Am I doing it again? Being the overbearing mother who always thinks she knows better? That evening, Gary arrived with 2 bags of groceries. Thought you ladies could use some supplies, he said with a warm smile, setting the bags on the counter. Rachel watched from the doorway as Lena's face lit up, the first genuine smile Rachel had seen from her daughter since she'd arrived. Gary was in his early 40s, tall and friendly-looking, with an easy manner. He wore work jeans and a flannel shirt, and he moved around the kitchen like he belonged there. Gary, this is my mother, Rachel, Lena said. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Gary extended his hand, and Rachel shook it. His grip was firm but not aggressive. Lena's mentioned you. Glad you could come help out. Thank you for the groceries, Rachel said, studying his face. No problem at all. Lena works so hard, least I can do. He started unpacking the bags. Got that bread you like, Lena, and some of those cookies Ellie enjoys. As if summoned by her name, Ellie appeared in the doorway. When she saw Gary, she stopped. Her body went rigid. Hey there, kiddo, Gary said cheerfully. Got your favorite cookies? Ellie didn't respond. She turned and walked quickly back to her room. Gary chuckled. Shy one, isn't she? She's having a hard time right now, Lena explained. Kids are resilient, Gary said. She'll be fine. After he finished unpacking, Gary noticed the leaky faucet Rachel had mentioned to Lena that morning. I can fix that right now if you want. Got my tools in the truck. Would you? Lena asked, relief clear in her voice. I've been meaning to call a plumber, but say no more. Gary headed outside. Within 20 minutes, the faucet was fixed. Gary refused payment, waving off Lena's attempts. That's what friends do, he said. Rachel watched the whole interaction, feeling confused. Gary seemed genuinely kind. He was helping Lena in practical ways Rachel couldn't. He wasn't asking for anything in return. So why do I feel uneasy? That night, after Gary left and Lena went to bed early, exhausted from her shift, Rachel sat with Ellie again. As the little girl got ready for bed, Rachel noticed a piece of paper sticking out from under the mattress. What's that, sweetheart? Rachel asked gently. Ellie quickly shoved it further under. Nothing. Can I see? Ellie shook her head, clutching Mr. Hops tighter. Rachel didn't push, but later, when Ellie was asleep, curiosity got the better of her. She carefully pulled the paper out. It was a drawing in crayon. A large, dark figure standing next to a small bed. The figure had no face, just a tall shape, and in the corner, a small stick figure with yellow hair, eyes wide open. Rachel stared at the drawing, her heart beating faster. What does this mean? She wanted to wake Lena, to show her, but then doubt crept in. It's just a drawing. Children draw scary things all the time. I'm reading too much into this. Rachel slipped the drawing back under the mattress and sat in the chair, watching Ellie sleep. The little girl's face was peaceful now, but every few minutes she would twitch, mumbling something Rachel couldn't make out. And Rachel sat there in the dim light, torn between instinct and doubt, wondering if she was seeing shadows where none existed, or if she was finally seeing something everyone else had missed. 3 days later, the kitchen sink started backing up. Lena stood over it, exhausted, near tears as dirty water pooled in the basin. I can't deal with this right now, she whispered. I can't afford a plumber. I just can't." Rachel was about to suggest they try to fix it themselves when her phone buzzed. It was Lena texting Gary. Within 30 minutes, Gary's truck pulled into the driveway. "Heard you've got a plumbing crisis," he said, carrying a toolbox. He was cheerful, energetic, a stark contrast to Lena's defeated exhaustion. Rachel watched from the doorway as Gary worked under the sink, explaining what he was doing in simple terms. "Just a clog in the trap. Easy fix. Should have called me sooner, Lena." "I hate bothering you," Lena said quietly. "It's not a bother." Gary emerged from under the sink, wiping his hands on a rag. "That's what friends are for, right?" He turned on the faucet. Water drained perfectly. Lena actually laughed, a sound Rachel hadn't heard since she'd arrived. "Gary, you're a miracle worker." "Just practical," he said with a modest shrug. Then he noticed a loose cabinet door. "Want me to tighten that hinge while I'm here?" "You don't have to. Takes 2 minutes." Rachel observed the exchange, feeling something uncomfortable in her chest. Gary was solving real problems. He was present, helpful, asking for nothing in return. He'd just saved Lena probably $200 in plumber fees. So why does this feel wrong? After Gary finished the cabinet, he sat at the kitchen table, and Lena made him coffee, a small gesture of thanks. They talked easily like old friends. Gary asked about Lena's work, listened attentively, offered encouragement. "You're doing an amazing job, Lena. Single mom, 2 jobs, raising a kid. That takes real strength." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm failing her." "You're not failing anyone," Gary said firmly. "Ellie's lucky to have you." Rachel watched Lena's face transform. Gratitude, relief, something close to hope. For the first time, Rachel understood why her daughter needed this man. He gave her something Rachel couldn't. Validation without judgment. Gary turned to Rachel. "How are you settling in, Mrs. Porter? Must be nice to spend time with your granddaughter." "It is," Rachel said carefully, though she's quite reserved. "Kids that age are funny," Gary said. "One day they're shy, next day they won't stop talking. My sister's kids were the same way." "You have nieces and nephews?" Rachel asked. 3. I don't see them as much as I'd like. My sister moved to Oregon, but I try to stay in touch." He pulled out his phone, showing them pictures of children at a birthday party. "That's Emma, she's 7 now, and those are the twins, just turned 5. The photos looked genuine, happy children, casual family moments. Rachel felt her suspicions deflate slightly. Gary glanced at his watch. "I should head out, got an early shift tomorrow." He stood, gathering his tools. "Lena, if that sink acts up again, you call me immediately, okay? Don't wait." "I will. Thank you, Gary, really." At the door, Gary paused. "Hey, I know you're working Thursday night. I can swing by. Keep an eye on Ellie if you need." Rachel spoke before thinking. "I'll be here Thursday. I can watch her." Gary smiled easily. "Even better. But if you need backup, Mrs. Porter, I'm happy to help. I know how exhausting it can be." After he left, Lena turned to Rachel. "See? He's genuinely kind. I don't know why you seem so suspicious of him." "I'm not suspicious," Rachel lied. "I just don't know him." "Well, maybe you should try," Lena said, an edge in her voice. "He's been there for me when no one else was." The words stung because they were true. Rachel had been absent for years. Gary had shown up. That night, Rachel lay in the guest room, really just a converted office with a fold-out couch, and tried to sort through her feelings. Gary had been nothing but helpful. He'd saved Lena money, fixed real problems, offered emotional support. He had family photos, normal stories, a regular job. Everything about him seemed ordinary. So why can't I shake this feeling? She thought about Ellie's reaction when Gary arrived, how the child had frozen, then disappeared to her room. But children were unpredictable. Maybe Ellie was just shy around people she didn't know well. Rachel heard a soft sound from down the hall. Ellie's room. She got up quietly and walked to the doorway. Ellie was sitting up in bed, staring at the door, Mr. Hops clutched to her chest. "Can't sleep, sweetheart?" Rachel whispered. Ellie shook her head. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed. "What's wrong? Is he gone?" "Who?" Ellie didn't answer. She just pulled her knees up to her chest. "Gary left hours ago," Rachel said gently. "It's just you, me, and your mom here now. Ellie nodded slowly but didn't lie back down. Rachel stayed with her, stroking her hair, until finally the little girl's eyes grew heavy. As Ellie drifted off, she mumbled something so quietly Rachel almost missed it. "I don't like when he comes." Rachel's hand stilled. "What did you say, honey?" But Ellie was already asleep, her breathing evening out. Rachel sat there for a long time, watching her granddaughter's face in the dim glow of the nightlight. "I don't like when he comes." It could mean anything. It could mean nothing. But Rachel couldn't stop hearing those 5 small words, spoken in a voice filled with something that sounded an awful lot like fear. Thursday night came. Lena kissed Ellie goodbye before her shift, double-checking that Rachel had her work number. "Call if anything happens," Lena said. "We'll be fine," Rachel assured her. After Lena left, the house felt different, quieter, heavier somehow. Rachel made dinner, but Ellie barely touched her food. She kept glancing toward the front door, toward the windows, her small body tense. "What would you like to do tonight?" Rachel asked, trying to sound cheerful. "We could read a story or color or—" "Can we lock the doors?" Ellie interrupted. Rachel blinked. "The doors are locked, sweetheart." "All of them?" "Yes." "Would you like to check with me?" Ellie nodded quickly. Together, they walked through the small house, front door, back door, windows. Ellie watched Rachel test each lock, and only then did her shoulders relax slightly. They settled on the couch with a picture book. Rachel read aloud, doing different voices for the characters, but Ellie wasn't really listening. Her eyes kept darting to the hallway, to the door. "Ellie," Rachel said softly, closing the book. "What are you afraid of?" The little girl's fingers tightened around Mr. Hops. She opened her mouth, then closed it. "You can tell me anything," Rachel encouraged. "I promise I'll listen." "Grandma?" Ellie's voice was barely a whisper. "Do you have to leave?" "Not tonight, I'm staying right here with you." "But later, are you going back to your house?" Rachel's heart squeezed. "I'm here as long as you and your mom need me." Ellie seemed to consider this. Then so quietly Rachel had to lean in to hear. "I get scared at night." "Of what, sweetheart?" "The dark, and—" She paused. "And when people come." "What people?" Ellie looked down at her lap. "Sometimes, when Mama's at work, someone comes in the house." Rachel's pulse quickened. "Who comes in?" But Ellie had gone silent again, retreating into herself the way she always did when pressed too hard. Rachel forced herself to stay calm. "Is it Gary you're talking about?" Ellie's whole body went rigid at the name. She nodded barely. "And you don't like when he's here?" Another small nod. "Can you tell me why?" Ellie's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head frantically. I can't tell." "Why can't you tell?" "Because—" Ellie's voice broke. "Because it's a secret." Rachel felt ice in her veins. Who said it's a secret? But at that moment, they heard a car door slam outside. Ellie jumped, her face going pale. "It's okay," Rachel said quickly, standing. "Let me check." She went to the window and peered through the curtain. It was just a neighbor arriving home. She turned back to reassure Ellie, but the little girl had already fled down the hallway to her room. Rachel found her curled on her bed, Mr. Hops pressed against her face. "Ellie, honey, it was just the neighbor. No one's coming in." "I want Mama," Ellie whispered. "Your Mama will be home in a few hours. I'm here until then. Promise you won't leave me alone?" "I promise." Rachel sat in the chair beside the bed, her mind racing. It's a secret. What kind of secret would a 6-year-old keep? And who would tell her to keep it? As the evening wore on, Ellie finally fell into a restless sleep. Rachel watched her, noticing how even in sleep the child seemed tense, never fully relaxing. Around midnight, Rachel heard the front door open. Lena was home. Rachel stepped into the hallway, closing Ellie's door softly behind her. "How was she?" Lena asked, setting down her purse. Rachel hesitated. She wanted to tell Lena everything, about Ellie's fear, about the secret, about how the child had frozen at Gary's name. But she could already imagine Lena's reaction. "You're reading too much into it. She's just anxious. You're making problems where there aren't any." "She was okay," Rachel said finally. "A little anxious, but we managed." Lena nodded, too tired to probe further. "Thank you for staying with her, Mom." After Lena went to bed, Rachel returned to the guest room. But sleep wouldn't come. She kept hearing Ellie's small voice. "Sometimes someone comes in the house." and the way the child's body had gone rigid when Rachel said Gary's name. Rachel stared at the ceiling, torn between instinct and reason. Was she seeing something real? Or was she projecting her own need to protect, to matter, to be the mother she'd failed to be years ago? In the darkness, she didn't know which frightened her more, the possibility that something was wrong, or the possibility that she was imagining it all. Rachel couldn't sleep. She lay on the fold-out couch, staring at shadows on the ceiling, Ellie's words echoing in her mind. It's a secret. The phrase triggered something in Rachel, a memory she'd buried for years. Lena had been 14. It was winter, and she'd come home from school quieter than usual. Over the following weeks, she'd become withdrawn, stopped eating properly, started making excuses to avoid school. Rachel had noticed. Of course she'd noticed, but when she'd asked what was wrong, Lena had said, "Nothing, Mom. I'm fine." And Rachel, busy with her own job, her own stress, her own life, had chosen to believe her. It wasn't until 6 months later that Rachel learned the truth. A girl from Lena's class had finally told a teacher. There was a group of students who'd been tormenting Lena for months, spreading rumors, excluding her, writing cruel notes. Classic bullying, invisible to adults. When Rachel found out, she'd been devastated. "Why didn't you tell me?" she'd asked. Lena had looked at her with hollow eyes. "I tried. You didn't see it." Those words had haunted Rachel ever since. You didn't see it. She'd failed her daughter once by not seeing what was right in front of her, by accepting the easy answer instead of digging deeper, by believing "I'm fine" when everything else screamed otherwise. Was she doing the same thing now? Seeing problems because she needed to atone for past failures? Creating a crisis where none existed because she couldn't bear to fail again? Or was history repeating itself? Another person in her family suffering in silence, waiting for someone to really see? Rachel got up and walked quietly to Ellie's room. The door was cracked open. In the glow of the nightlight, she could see her granddaughter sleeping fitfully, one small hand gripping Mr. Hopp's. On impulse, Rachel knelt beside the bed and carefully pulled out the drawing she'd found days ago, the dark figure near the small bed. She looked at it again, really looked. The figure was tall, featureless. The stick figure child in the corner had her eyes wide open, mouth a straight line. Not smiling, not neutral, something else. Rachel slid the drawing back and stood. Her knees protested. She wasn't as young as she used to be. Everything felt harder now, but she couldn't let that be an excuse. The next morning, Rachel made breakfast while Lena got ready for work. When her daughter came into the kitchen, Rachel chose her words carefully. "Honey, I've been thinking. Maybe it would help if I spent more time with Ellie. Really got to know her, built some trust." Lena poured coffee, her expression guarded. "What do you mean?" "Just one-on-one time. Maybe take her to the park or do some activities together. She seems isolated. She goes to daycare 5 days a week. She's around other kids, but she doesn't play with them, you said. She sits alone." Lena's jaw tightened. "Not all kids are social butterflies, Mom. Some children are just quiet." "I know that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with her. You just thought you could swoop in and fix everything I'm apparently doing wrong." Lena snapped. "That's not what I meant." "Isn't it?" Lena grabbed her purse. "You left, Mom. You weren't there when I was struggling, when I was pregnant and alone. Now you're here for a week and suddenly you're the expert on my daughter." The words hit like a slap. Rachel felt her face flush. "You're right. I wasn't there. And I regret that every single day, but I'm here now and I'm trying." "Well, maybe trying isn't enough," Lena said, her voice breaking. "Maybe some damage can't be fixed by just showing up." She walked out, slamming the door behind her. Rachel stood alone in the kitchen, tears burning her eyes. She heard small footsteps and turned to see Ellie standing in the hallway, still in her pajamas, watching. "Is Mama mad?" Ellie asked quietly. Rachel wiped her eyes quickly. "She's just tired, sweetheart. Come on, let's get you some breakfast." As Ellie ate her cereal in silence, Rachel watched her. This fragile little girl, caught in the middle of adult pain and complicated history. Rachel thought about her own mother, long deceased, who had also been distant, critical. 3 generations of women who'd never quite known how to reach each other. But I can break that pattern, Rachel thought. I have to. That afternoon, while Ellie colored at the kitchen table, Rachel found another drawing mixed in with the others. This one showed a door, just a simple door drawn in brown crayon. But on the other side, barely visible, was a dark shadow. And beneath it, in Ellie's careful printing, scared. Rachel stared at the word, her heart pounding. She wasn't imagining this. She wasn't projecting. Something was frightening this child. Something real. Something that happened behind closed doors. But what? And how could she prove it when everyone else, including Lena, seemed determined not to see? Rachel started keeping a small notebook. She wrote down everything she observed. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Ellie won't walk down hallway alone. Waits for me. Wednesday morning. Barely ate breakfast. Asked 3 times if doors were locked. Thursday, nightmares, woke up crying, wouldn't say why. But when she read it back, it all seemed so vague. Nothing concrete. Nothing a doctor or social worker could act on. Just the observations of a worried grandmother who maybe worried too much. One afternoon, while Ellie napped, Rachel decided to talk to someone. She walked next door, where she'd seen an older woman gardening. "Hello," Rachel said with a friendly smile. "I'm Rachel Porter. I'm staying with my daughter Lena for a while." The woman straightened, wiping dirt from her hands. "Oh yes, Lena. Lovely girl. Works so hard. I'm Margaret." They chatted for a few minutes about the neighborhood, the weather. Then Rachel carefully steered the conversation. "Lena's friend Gary seems very helpful." Margaret's face brightened. "Oh, Gary. Such a nice young man. Always sees him helping Lena with things around the house. We need more people like that in the world, don't we? Always bringing groceries, fixing things, real gentlemen." "How long has he been coming around?" "Few months, I'd say. He's wonderful with the little girl, too. Sometimes I see him arrive when Lena's at work. Real devoted friend." Rachel felt her stomach tighten. "He comes when Lena's not home?" "Well, someone has to watch the child," Margaret said matter-of-factly. "Better him than leaving her with strangers. Lena's lucky to have found such a reliable person." Rachel thanked Margaret and walked back, her mind churning. To the neighbor, everything looked perfectly normal. Gary was the hero of the story, the helpful friend stepping up when needed. Maybe I'm the problem, Rachel thought. Maybe I'm so damaged from my own mistakes that I see danger everywhere. That evening, Rachel tried once more to talk to Lena. She waited until Ellie was in bed, then approached her daughter carefully. "Lena, I need to ask you something. How often does Gary stay with Ellie when you're working?" Lena looked up from her phone, immediately defensive. "Why?" "I'm just trying to understand the situation. Once, maybe twice a week, when I can't find anyone else. He volunteers, Mom. I don't even have to ask." "And you trust him completely?" Lena's eyes flashed with anger. "Are you serious right now?" "Yes, I trust him. He's been nothing but kind to us." "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. Ellie seems uncomfortable around him." "Ellie's uncomfortable around everyone lately," Lena shot back. "She barely talks to her own teachers. Are they suspicious too?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Lena stood, her voice rising. "Because it sounds like you're trying to make Gary into some kind of villain when he's literally the only person who's helped me in months." "Where were you when I needed help, Mom? Where were you when I was drowning?" "I know I wasn't there," Rachel said, her voice shaking. "I know I failed you, but I'm here now, and something feels wrong." "No," Lena interrupted. "What's wrong is, you can't stand that someone else was there for me when you weren't. You can't handle that Gary's been more of a support than you ever were." The words landed like physical blows. Rachel felt tears sting her eyes. "Lena, please. I think you should go home, Mom," Lena said quietly. "I appreciate you coming, but you're making things worse. You always do." Rachel stood frozen, speechless. Then Ellie's small voice came from the hallway. "Don't make Grandma leave." Both women turned. Ellie stood there in her nightgown, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Mama. Please don't make her go." Lena's anger dissolved. She knelt down, gathering Ellie in her arms. "Baby, it's okay. Grandma's not leaving tonight. Go back to bed. Promise?" "I promise. Now come on, let's get you tucked in." As Lena led Ellie back to her room, Rachel sank into a chair, her hands trembling. She was trapped. If she left, Ellie would be alone with whatever or whoever was frightening her. But if she stayed and kept pushing, she'd only drive Lena further away. Later that night, unable to sleep, Rachel called a children's helpline she'd found online. She spoke to a counselor, explaining Ellie's behavior, her fears, the strange drawings. The counselor listened patiently. "These could be signs of anxiety or trauma," she said. "But without specific disclosure from the child or physical evidence, it's difficult to intervene." "Has she said anything explicit?" "No, just that she's scared, that someone comes to the house at night, that it's a secret." "That's concerning language," the counselor admitted. "But unfortunately, it's also vague. Children sometimes conflate fears, nightmares with reality, stories with actual events. Without more concrete information, most agencies can't act." After the call, Rachel sat in the darkness, feeling utterly helpless. She had suspicions but no proof, instincts but no evidence, and a daughter who thought she was paranoid and controlling. In the quiet house, Rachel heard Ellie cry out in her sleep. By the time she reached the room, the little girl had settled again, but her face was scrunched in distress even in sleep. Rachel pulled a blanket over her granddaughter and sat in the chair, keeping watch. "I see you," Rachel thought, looking at Ellie's troubled face. "I see you, and I won't look away, even if everyone thinks I'm wrong." Gary came by on Saturday afternoon with a toolbox and a bag of takeout. "Heard there's a wobbly table leg," he said cheerfully. "Figured I'd fix it and bring lunch. Hope Chinese is okay." Lena's face lit up in a way that made Rachel's heart ache. Her daughter was so starved for kindness, so desperate for help, that Gary's simple gestures meant everything. They sat around the kitchen table eating lo mein and fried rice. Gary told stories about his work at the hardware store, funny customer interactions. He was engaging, warm. Even Rachel found herself almost relaxing. Almost. "So, Mrs. Porter," Gary said, turning his attention to her. "Lena tells me you're retired. What did you do before?" "I was a bookkeeper," Rachel said. 30 years at the same firm. That takes dedication. Must be nice to have that behind you now. Enjoying your free time?" "I suppose." Gary smiled. "I bet you've got plenty of stories. 30 years anywhere, you see a lot." He took a bite of rice. "Where do you live now? Still in town?" "About 3 hours north. Small place. Quiet. That sounds peaceful. You must miss it being away from home." Rachel studied him carefully. The questions seemed innocent, normal getting-to-know-you conversation. But something about the way Gary held eye contact just a fraction too long made her uneasy. "I don't mind being here," Rachel said. "Family's important." "Absolutely." Gary glanced at Ellie, who was pushing rice around her plate. "How are you doing, kiddo? You've been awful quiet." Ellie didn't look up. "She's shy," Lena explained quickly. "Nothing wrong with that," Gary said easily. "Some people are watchers, not talkers. I was like that as a kid too." He smiled at Ellie. "You and I are similar that way, aren't we?" Ellie's hand tightened around her fork. After lunch, Gary fixed the table leg, then noticed a loose doorknob. "Mind if I tighten this too?" "You don't have to," Lena protested, but without conviction. 5 minutes, Gary assured her. While he worked, Rachel washed dishes at the sink. She used the opportunity to ask careful questions. "Gary, you mentioned you have nieces and nephews?" "That's right. 3 of them. Miss those kids. Do you see them often?" "Not as much as I'd like. My sister and I had a falling out a few years back. Family stuff, you know how it goes." He said it casually, but something in his tone shifted. Just barely. "That's unfortunate," Rachel said. "What kind of falling out?" Gary's hands paused on the screwdriver, then resumed. "Oh, nothing dramatic. She remarried. Her new husband didn't like me much. Thought I was too involved with the kids. You know how territorial some people get." Rachel murmured non-committally. "Her loss," Gary said with a shrug. "I'm great with kids. Always have been." The way he said it made Rachel's skin crawl, though she couldn't say why. Gary finished the doorknob and packed up his tools. At the door, he paused. "Lena, I'm around tomorrow if you need anything. Totally free day." "We're okay," Rachel said quickly. "I'm here." Gary smiled at her, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Of course. But the offer stands. Lena knows she can call anytime." After he left, Lena turned to Rachel. "That wasn't so bad, was it? You talked to him. He's just a normal guy. He seems very present." Rachel said carefully. That's what good friends are, Mom. Present. Rachel wanted to argue, to point out all the small things that bothered her. The way Gary had asked about Rachel's home, her schedule, as if cataloging information. The way his story about his sister had sounded rehearsed. The way Ellie had gone completely silent when he'd compared himself to her. But she had no proof. Just feelings. Just instincts that could easily be wrong. That night, as Rachel was tucking Ellie into bed, the little girl grabbed her hand. Grandma? Yes, sweetheart. When Gary comes, when Mama's at work. Ellie's voice dropped to a whisper. He sits in here, in your chair. Rachel's blood went cold. He sits in your room? Ellie nodded, her eyes filling with tears. He talks to me, says things. What kind of things? I can't tell, he said. He said if I tell, something bad will happen. To Mama. Rachel felt rage and fear collide in her chest. She forced her voice to stay calm. Ellie, nothing bad will happen to your Mama, I promise you. What Gary says isn't true. But how do you know? Because I'm here now, and I'm not going to let anything bad happen to anyone. Ellie studied Rachel's face, searching for certainty. You promise? I promise. But as Rachel sat in the chair that night, watching Ellie finally fall asleep, she felt the weight of that promise crushing her. She'd finally heard it, confirmation that something was wrong. But Ellie's words were still too vague, too easily dismissed as a child's imagination or misunderstanding. Rachel knew what she had to do. She had to gather real evidence. She had to make Ellie feel safe enough to tell her everything. And she had to do it before Gary realized she was onto him. In the darkness, Rachel made a decision. She would document everything. She would be ready. Because now she knew with absolute certainty her instincts weren't wrong. Something terrible was happening to her granddaughter. And everyone except Rachel was too blind, or too desperate, to see it. The next morning, Rachel went to the store and bought supplies. Colored pencils, a new sketchbook, stickers. When she returned, she found Ellie sitting on the living room floor, staring at nothing. I got you something, Rachel said, sitting down beside her. Ellie looked at the sketchbook with cautious interest. Sometimes, Rachel said gently, it's hard to say things out loud, but maybe you could draw them, show me what you're feeling. Ellie took the sketchbook slowly. For a long moment, she just held it. Then she opened to the first page and picked up a brown pencil. Over the next hour, Rachel sat quietly while Ellie drew. The little girl worked in silence, occasionally erasing, starting over. Rachel didn't push, didn't ask questions. She just stayed present. When Ellie finally pushed the sketchbook toward her, Rachel's hands trembled as she picked it up. The first drawing showed a house, simple, childlike. Inside one window was a small figure in bed. Outside the window was a larger shadow. The second drawing showed a hallway. A tall figure at one end, a small figure at the other, backed into a corner. The third showed a bed. Two figures, one large, one small. The large one sitting on the edge. Words written in careful letters. Scared and don't tell. Rachel felt sick, but she kept her voice steady. Thank you for showing me these, Ellie. You're very brave. Are you mad? Ellie whispered. Mad? No, sweetheart. Why would I be mad? Because I'm not supposed to tell. Who said you're not supposed to tell? Ellie looked down. He did. Gary? A tiny nod. Ellie, listen to me. Rachel set the sketchbook aside and took the little girl's hands gently. When someone tells you to keep a secret that makes you scared or uncomfortable, that's wrong. You should always tell. And I'm so glad you're telling me. But he said Mama would get hurt if I tell. That's a lie, honey. A mean lie that people tell to keep children quiet. Your Mama won't get hurt, I promise. Ellie's face crumpled. He said nobody would believe me anyway. Rachel pulled her granddaughter into her arms, feeling the small body shake with sobs. I believe you, she whispered fiercely. I believe every word. When Lena came home that evening, Rachel waited until Ellie was in her room, then asked to speak privately. I need to show you something, Rachel said, placing the sketchbook on the kitchen table. Lena looked at the drawings, her face unreadable. She flipped through the pages slowly. Rachel watched her daughter's expression shift, confusion, then dismissal. Mom, these are just drawings. Look at what she wrote. Look at the figures. She's 6 years old. She draws monsters and scary things. All kids do. Lena, she told me Gary comes into her room at night. He sits on her bed. He tells her not to tell you. Lena's face went pale, then flushed with anger. That's ridiculous. Is it? Think about it. Really think. Why is Ellie so afraid? Why won't she sleep alone? Why does she freeze when Gary's around? She has anxiety, the pediatrician said. The pediatrician said she might have anxiety. But what if there's a reason for it? Lena stood abruptly. I can't believe you're doing this. You're putting ideas in her head. I'm not putting anything. You are. Lena's voice rose. You're asking leading questions, making her think there's something wrong when there isn't. Gary has never done anything inappropriate. He's kind and helpful and he told her that you'd get hurt if she told anyone what he does. Lena froze. She said that? Yes. For a moment, doubt flickered across Lena's face. Then she shook her head. Kids mix things up. She could have heard that in a TV show or a story at school. You're twisting everything to fit what you want to believe. Why would I want to believe this? Rachel asked, her voice breaking. Do you think I enjoy thinking that my granddaughter is being hurt? That I want this to be true? I think you want to be needed, Lena said coldly. I think you want to be the hero who saves everyone because you feel guilty about the past. But you're not saving anyone, Mom. You're destroying the one good thing in my life. The one good thing. Lena, listen to yourself. Your daughter is the good thing in your life, not some man you barely know. I know him better than you do, and I'm done with this conversation. Lena grabbed her purse and keys. I'm going for a drive. Don't wait up. After she left, Rachel sat alone in the quiet kitchen, the sketchbook open in front of her. She stared at Ellie's careful drawings, at the words, "Don't tell," written in crayon. What am I supposed to do? She could call the authorities, but what would she report? Drawings that could be interpreted a dozen different ways? A child's vague statements that could be dismissed as imagination? Rachel had learned enough from her phone calls to know that without explicit disclosure or physical evidence, investigations went nowhere, and making a report that went nowhere could alert Gary, making everything worse. She needed more. She needed Ellie to feel safe enough to say clearly what was happening. She needed documentation that couldn't be dismissed. But time was running out. She could feel it. Lena was pulling away, defensive and angry. Gary was circling, helpful and present. And Ellie was caught in the middle, silent and terrified. Rachel closed the sketchbook and held it against her chest. I believe you, she thought, as if Ellie could hear. And I'm not going to stop until everyone else believes you too. Even if it cost Rachel everything. Rachel couldn't wait any longer. The next morning, while Lena was at work, she called the number the helpline counselor had given her, a child advocacy center that specialized in cases like this. She spoke with a woman named Patricia, explaining everything carefully. Ellie's behavior, the drawings, the things she'd said about Gary, the secrets. Patricia listened without interrupting. When Rachel finished, there was a pause. Mrs. Porter, I understand your concerns. What you're describing could certainly be warning signs. However, our hands are somewhat tied without a clear disclosure from the child or corroborating evidence. But she has disclosed, Rachel insisted. She told me he comes into her room, sits on her bed, tells her not to tell her mother. Those statements are concerning, but they're also vague enough that they could be interpreted different ways. A defense attorney would argue the child misunderstood innocent interactions. We need something more concrete. What's more concrete than a terrified 6-year-old? Patricia's voice was kind but firm. I know this is frustrating. Believe me, I've worked these cases for 15 years, but the system requires certain thresholds before we can intervene. What I can do is schedule a forensic interview with Ellie, a trained professional who knows how to talk to children about these issues without leading them. Would the child's mother consent to that? Rachel thought of Lena's angry face, her accusations. I don't know. Without parental consent, we'd need to involve Child Protective Services, which triggers a formal investigation. That's a big step, Mrs. Porter. It could mean temporary removal of the child if we find the home unsafe. Could mean court proceedings. Are you prepared for that? Rachel closed her eyes. If she called CPS, Lena would never forgive her. The family would be torn apart. But if she didn't, and something worse happened to Ellie, what would you do? Rachel asked quietly. If this was your granddaughter? Patricia was silent for a moment. I'd document everything. Dates, times, exact quotes. I'd try one more time to get the mother to see reason. And if that failed, yes, I'd call CPS. Because sometimes protecting a child means risking everything else. After the call, Rachel sat with her head in her hands. She'd never felt so alone. That afternoon, she tried one final time to reach Lena. She waited until her daughter came home, visibly exhausted. "Lena, please, just sit with me for 5 minutes. Let me show you." "No, Mom." Lena's voice was flat. "I'm done. I've made a decision." Rachel's stomach dropped. "What decision?" "I called Gary. I told him about your accusations." "You what?" "He deserves to know that someone's saying these horrible things about him." "And you know what he said?" "He said he understands. That sometimes people see things that aren't there. That he'll step back, give space, so you'll see there's nothing to worry about." Rachel felt dizzy. "Lena, that's exactly what someone would say if they were guilty. Or it's what someone would say if they're innocent and being unfairly attacked." Lena's voice cracked. "He's hurt, Mom. He's been nothing but good to us, and now he feels like he can't even help anymore because my mother has convinced herself he's some kind of monster. I'm trying to protect Ellie by destroying everything we have, by making her think there's something scary when there isn't. You're the one damaging her, not Gary." Rachel stood, trembling. "Then let me take her to a professional, someone trained to talk to children. If I'm wrong, they'll tell us. If I'm right." "If you're right, I've failed my daughter completely," Lena said, tears streaming down her face. "Is that what you want me to believe? That I let something terrible happen to her?" "No one's saying you failed. That's exactly what you're saying. And I can't carry that. I'm barely surviving as it is." Lena wiped her eyes roughly. "I need you to go, Mom. Tomorrow. Go home. We'll be fine without you." "Lena, please." Lena's voice broke completely. "Just go." Rachel stood frozen as her daughter walked away, leaving her alone in the kitchen. That night, Rachel lay awake, her mind racing. If she left, Ellie would be alone with whatever was happening. But if she forced the issue and called CPS, she might destroy any chance of Lena ever trusting her again. Around midnight, she heard soft footsteps. Ellie appeared in the doorway. Mr. Hops clutched to her chest. "You're leaving," the little girl whispered. Rachel sat up. "Your mom asked me to." "Please don't." Ellie's voice was desperate. "Please, Grandma, I need you to stay." Rachel's heart shattered. She pulled Ellie into her arms. "Come here, sweetheart." They sat together in the darkness, and Rachel made a decision. She couldn't leave this child. She wouldn't. Even if it meant going against Lena's wishes. Even if it meant involving authorities. Even if it meant destroying what was left of their relationship. Some things were worth losing everything for, and Ellie was one of them. "I'm going to help you," Rachel whispered into her granddaughter's hair. "I promise, no matter what it takes." The next morning, with Ellie sitting beside her for moral support, Rachel picked up the phone. Her hands shook as she dialed. "Child Protective Services. How may I help you?" Rachel took a breath. "I need to report a concern about my granddaughter's safety." There was no going back now. The caseworker arrived 2 days later. Her name was Ms. Chen, and she had kind eyes and a calm demeanor that immediately put Rachel at ease, though nothing could ease the knot of dread in her stomach. Lena was furious. She stood in the living room, arms crossed, glaring at Rachel with pure betrayal in her eyes. "I can't believe you did this," she hissed before Ms. Chen arrived. "You've destroyed us." Rachel didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Ms. Chen interviewed Lena first, then Rachel. She looked through the drawings, took notes, asked careful questions. Then she asked to speak with Ellie alone. Rachel waited in the kitchen, listening to the murmur of voices from the living room. Lena paced the hallway, her face pale. After 40 minutes, Ms. Chen emerged. Her expression was unreadable. "I'd like to schedule a forensic interview at the Advocacy Center," she said. "It's designed specifically for situations like this, a safe space where Ellie can talk to a trained professional." "Is that necessary?" Lena asked, her voice tight. "Yes, ma'am. Based on what I've observed, we need to pursue this further." Lena's face crumbled. She sank onto the couch, hands covering her face. The forensic interview happened 3 days later. Rachel and Lena sat in a waiting room while a trained interviewer spoke with Ellie in a specially designed room. The session was recorded. Rachel watched the clock. 20 minutes, 30, 45. Finally, the interviewer emerged. She asked to speak with both of them privately. In a small office, she explained gently what Ellie had disclosed. Gary had been coming into her room at night when Lena was at work. He would sit on her bed, talk to her, touch her hair. He told her she was special, that this was their secret. He said if she told her mother, something bad would happen, that Lena would get sick, that they'd lose their home. The touching had been escalating. Nothing overtly physical yet, but the pattern was clear. He was grooming her. Lena listened to all of this, her face blank with shock. When the interviewer finished, Lena stood abruptly and walked out. Rachel found her in the hallway, leaning against the wall, sobbing. "I didn't see it," Lena gasped. "How did I not see it? I let him, I trusted him. Oh God, what have I done?" Rachel wrapped her arms around her daughter. "You were exhausted. You were doing everything you could. He manipulated both of us. But you saw it. You knew. I suspected. Didn't know, not for sure." Lena pulled back, looking at her mother with anguished eyes. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry I didn't listen." "We're listening now," Rachel said firmly. "And we're going to protect her." The police were called. Gary's name and information were provided. Within hours, they tracked him down at his apartment, preparing to leave town. His truck was packed. He was arrested. When they searched his belongings, they found photographs of other children, names, addresses, a pattern that had been going on for years. Rachel and Lena sat together that night, holding Ellie between them, all three of them crying, for different reasons, but together. "I'm sorry, baby," Lena whispered over and over. "I'm so sorry." Ellie just held onto both of them, finally safe enough to let it all out. The days following Gary's arrest were a blur. Police interviews, statements. A detective explaining that other families had come forward once Gary's arrest was publicized. 3 other mothers, all with similar stories. Gary had a pattern. He'd befriend struggling single mothers, become indispensable, gain access to their children. He'd been doing it for years, moving from town to town. Rachel sat with Lena through all of it, watching her daughter grapple with a guilt so profound it threatened to swallow her whole. "I brought him into our home," Lena whispered one night, her eyes hollow. "I let him near my daughter. He was skilled at this," Rachel said gently. "He knew exactly how to appear trustworthy. He fooled everyone, neighbors, daycare staff, even the police in other towns. You're not to blame. But I am. I was so desperate for help, so desperate not to be alone that I ignored the warning signs." "What warning signs?" Rachel asked. "He fixed things. He brought groceries. He seemed kind. Even I wasn't completely sure until Ellie told me. You were sure enough to act. I was too blind." Rachel took her daughter's hand. "Lena, this isn't about blame. It's about healing now. For all of us." But healing wasn't simple. The legal process dragged on. Gary was charged, held without bail, but the trial would take months. Ellie had to testify, a process that terrified Rachel to think about. Worse, Lena was spiraling. She'd stopped sleeping, barely ate. The guilt consumed her. She'd call in sick to work, spending hours just staring at nothing. 2 weeks after Gary's arrest, Rachel found Lena sitting in Ellie's room in the middle of the night, watching her daughter sleep. "I can't do this," Lena whispered. "Every time I close my eyes, I see him sitting here, in this exact spot. And I didn't know. I didn't protect her. Lena, you need help. I need to turn back time. I need to have never met him." Rachel sat beside her daughter. "That's not possible. But getting help is, please, for Ellie's sake." It took another week of gentle persuasion, but finally Lena agreed to see a therapist. The diagnosis came quickly: severe depression and trauma. The therapist recommended intensive treatment. "There's a program," the therapist explained. "Residential treatment for trauma, 6 weeks. It would give you space to process everything, learn coping skills, start genuine healing." Lena looked at Ellie, who was coloring quietly in the corner. "Who would take care of her?" "I would," Rachel said immediately. "I'll take full custody temporarily, whatever you need." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this, after everything I said to you?" "Because you're my daughter, and because asking for help is the bravest thing you can do right now." 2 days later, Rachel watched as Lena packed a bag for the treatment facility. Ellie clung to her mother, frightened by another separation. "I'm going somewhere to get better," Lena told her gently, "so I can be the mom you deserve. Grandma will take care of you and I'll call every day, I promise. Are you leaving because of what Gary did? Ellie asked, her voice small. Lena knelt down, taking her daughter's face in her hands. No, baby. I'm leaving because I need to learn how to forgive myself, and that's going to take a little time. But I will always, always come back to you. After Lena left, Rachel and Ellie stood in the driveway, watching the car disappear. Is Mama going to be okay? Ellie whispered. Rachel took her granddaughter's hand. Yes, sweetheart. She's going to be okay. We all are. It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay. That night, for the first time since Rachel had arrived, Ellie slept through the night without nightmares. Rachel sat in the chair beside her bed, keeping watch, thinking about the long road ahead. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, despite everything. The weight of secrets was gone. The truth, however painful, had finally set them free. 3 weeks into Lena's treatment, Rachel and Ellie settled into a new rhythm. Rachel enrolled Ellie in play therapy with a specialist who worked with children who'd experienced trauma. The therapist, Dr. Winters, was patient and skilled. She used dolls, drawings, and gentle questions to help Ellie process what had happened. Slowly, session by session, Ellie began to open up. At home, Rachel created routines that helped Ellie feel safe. They checked locks together every night, not out of fear anymore, but as a comforting ritual. They left a nightlight on, the door open. Rachel never left without telling Ellie exactly where she was going and when she'd be back. Trust takes time to rebuild, Dr. Winters had explained. Consistency is key. Rachel visited Lena every weekend. The treatment facility was 2 hours away, but Rachel made the drive faithfully. She'd bring photos of Ellie, updates on her progress, small reminders that she was waiting. Lena looked different each visit, still fragile but slowly coming back to herself. The hollow look in her eyes was fading. She talked about what she was learning, how to set boundaries, how to recognize manipulation, how to forgive herself for being human. The therapist helped me understand something, Lena said during one visit. I was so desperate to give Ellie everything I didn't have growing up that I forgot the most important thing, being present, really present. You were working 3 jobs, Lena. You were surviving. Surviving isn't the same as living. Gary saw that desperation in me and used it. Lena looked at Rachel. You saw it too, but you wanted to help, not exploit. I'm sorry I didn't see the difference. We're past apologies now, Rachel said gently. We're in healing. One afternoon, Rachel took Ellie to the park, the first real outing since everything had happened. Ellie was hesitant at first, clinging to Rachel's hand, but gradually she ventured toward the swings. Another little girl approached. Want to play? Ellie looked back at Rachel, uncertain. Rachel smiled encouragingly. It's okay, sweetheart. I'll be right here. And slowly, tentatively, Ellie nodded. Rachel watched her granddaughter play, awkward at first, but then with increasing confidence. Real laughter rang out, the first Rachel had heard in months. When they got home, Ellie hugged Rachel tightly. Thank you, Grandma. For what, honey? For staying. For not leaving like you said you would. Rachel knelt down to Ellie's level. I will always stay when you need me. That's a promise. By week 5 of Lena's treatment, Gary's trial date was set. The prosecutor explained that with multiple victims now willing to testify, and evidence from his apartment, the case was strong. Gary's lawyer was pushing for a plea deal. Ellie may not have to testify, the prosecutor told Rachel. We're trying to spare the children that experience. Relief flooded through Rachel. Ellie had been having nightmares about having to see Gary again in court. When Lena came home in week 6, Ellie ran to her, and they held each other for a long time. Lena looked healthier, color in her cheeks, clarity in her eyes. That night, the 3 of them sat together on the couch. Lena on one side, Rachel on the other, Ellie between them. I got a job offer, Lena said quietly, from the treatment center. They need administrative help and the hours are reasonable. Better pay, benefits. It means starting over, but in a good way. That's wonderful, Rachel said. Lena looked at her mother. I can't do it without help, though. I'm not ready to be alone with her yet. I need to rebuild that trust slowly. I'm not going anywhere, Rachel assured her. Ellie looked up at both of them. We're staying together? Yes, baby, Lena said, stroking her daughter's hair. All 3 of us. We're a team now. For the first time in months, Rachel felt something close to peace. They weren't healed, not completely. The scars would take years to fade, but they were together. They were safe, and they were finally moving forward. One step at a time. 4 months later, Lena, Rachel, and Ellie moved into a new apartment across town. It was small but bright, with 2 bedrooms and windows that let in afternoon sunlight. A fresh start. Rachel took the smaller bedroom. "I don't need much space," she'd insisted, "and I want to be close." Lena had protested initially, worried about her mother giving up her own home, but Rachel had made peace with her decision. "My house was empty," she'd told Lena. "This is where I'm needed." Lena started her new job, working regular daytime hours. No more night shifts, no more exhaustion so deep she couldn't see straight. She came home for dinner every evening, helped with homework, tucked Ellie in. The process of rebuilding trust between mother and daughter was slow and sometimes painful. Ellie had moments where she'd pull away, testing whether Lena would really stay this time. "I'm not going anywhere," Lena would say patiently, every single time. "I'm here, Doctor." Winters continued working with Ellie weekly. The nightmares had decreased. Ellie still needed the nightlight, still checked locks, but she was laughing more, playing more, being a child again. In May, Gary accepted a plea deal. 20 years, no possibility of parole for 12. The other victims' families were notified. None of the children had to testify in court. When the prosecutor called with the news, Rachel cried, not from joy, but from relief. It was over. Gary couldn't hurt anyone else. That evening, Lena sat down with Ellie and explained in age-appropriate terms that Gary was going to prison for a very long time. "He can't come back?" Ellie asked. "No, sweetheart. He can never come back." Ellie was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Did I do something wrong? Is that why he picked me?" Lena's eyes filled with tears. She pulled her daughter close. "No, baby. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. He was a bad person who tricked us both. But you were so brave to tell Grandma. You helped stop him from hurting other kids. Really? Really, you're a hero." Ellie considered this, then hugged her mother tightly. One Saturday afternoon, Rachel took Ellie shopping for new clothes. As they walked through the store, Ellie suddenly stopped. "Grandma, what if Mama gets sad again?" Rachel knelt down. "She might have hard days sometimes. We all do. But she's learning how to handle those days better now. And we're here to help her, just like she helps us. And you won't leave?" "I'm not going anywhere." Ellie smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Good, because I love you, Grandma." Rachel's heart swelled. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." That evening, the 3 of them had dinner together at their small kitchen table. They talked about ordinary things: Ellie's upcoming school field trip, Lena's new co-worker, Rachel's plans to start a garden on the apartment balcony. Nothing dramatic, nothing earth-shattering. Just the simple, precious routine of family. After Ellie went to bed, Lena and Rachel sat together with tea. "I never thanked you properly," Lena said quietly, "for not giving up, for seeing what I couldn't see. You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. You risked everything, our relationship, your peace, everything, to protect her. I'll never forget that." Rachel reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. "We protect each other now. That's what families do." Lena squeezed her hand, tears in her eyes. "I'm glad you're here, Mom. I don't think I've ever said that before, but I am. I'm really glad." "Me too, honey. Me too." Later, Rachel checked on Ellie one last time before bed. The little girl was sleeping peacefully. Mr. Hops tucked under her arm, a slight smile on her face. Rachel adjusted the blanket, kissed her granddaughter's forehead, and whispered, "Sweet dreams, my brave girl." In the hallway, she paused, looking at the photos Lena had hung. Pictures of the 3 of them at the park, at the beach, just living life together. They weren't a perfect family. The scars remained, but they were whole in the ways that mattered. They were healing. They were together, and they were finally truly safe. 1 year later, on Ellie's 7th birthday, Rachel woke early to the sound of laughter in the kitchen. She walked out to find Lena and Ellie making pancakes together, flour dusting their faces. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," Rachel said, hugging her granddaughter. "We're making heart-shaped pancakes," Ellie announced proudly. The apartment was decorated with streamers and balloons. A small cake sat on the counter. Nothing extravagant, just a simple celebration of a little girl who'd survived something no child should ever face. Friends from Ellie's new school came over that afternoon. Rachel watched from the doorway as Ellie played, genuinely played, without fear shadowing her movements. She was still cautious sometimes, still had moments where old anxieties surfaced, but she was healing. They all were. After the party, as Ellie opened presents, Lena caught Rachel's eye and mouthed, "Thank you." Rachel just smiled. That evening, after Ellie was asleep, Rachel and Lena sat on the small balcony, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. "I've been thinking about something Dr. Winters said," Lena murmured. "About how trauma doesn't define us, but how we respond to it does." "Wise woman," Rachel said. "I spent so long being angry at myself. Angry that I didn't see, didn't protect her. But she helped me understand that beating myself up forever doesn't help Ellie. What helps is showing up every single day, being present, staying vigilant." Rachel nodded. "Vigilance without paranoia. That's the balance." "Exactly." Lena paused. "And accepting help. I never knew how to do that before. I thought asking for help meant I was failing. It means you're human." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Lena said, "Are you happy, Mom? Being here with us instead of in your own home?" Rachel considered the question. A year ago, she'd had a quiet, empty house and endless lonely days. Now she had chaos and noise and responsibility and purpose. "I've never been happier," Rachel said honestly. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." Inside, Rachel checked on Ellie one last time. The little girl was sleeping soundly, her breathing even and peaceful. The nightlight glowed softly. The door was open. Small rituals of safety that had become routine. Rachel sat in the chair. The same chair she'd sat in countless nights, keeping watch. But tonight felt different. Tonight, she wasn't guarding against immediate danger. She was simply present, bearing witness to the quiet miracle of a child at peace. She thought about everything they'd been through, the fear, the doubt, the moment she'd made that impossible phone call, knowing it might destroy everything. The aftermath, the healing, the slow rebuilding of trust and safety. It hadn't been a fairy tale. There was no magical moment where everything became perfect. Ellie still had therapy appointments. Lena still had hard days. Rachel still woke sometimes in the night, listening for sounds that weren't there. But they had something more valuable than perfection. They had commitment. They had vigilance. They had love that refused to look away. Rachel stood and walked to the window, looking out at the quiet neighborhood. Somewhere out there, other families were struggling. Other children were silent and afraid. Other grandmothers were feeling that same uneasy instinct, wondering if they were seeing something real or imagining shadows. She thought of those grandmothers and silently urged them, "Trust yourself. Look closer. Don't turn away, even when it's easier, even when everyone tells you you're wrong." Rachel turned back to look at Ellie, at the rise and fall of her small chest, at the slight smile on her sleeping face. "We made it," Rachel whispered to the sleeping child. "We made it through." And in that quiet moment, Rachel understood something profound. Being a mother, a grandmother, wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about never making mistakes or always knowing the right thing to do. It was about showing up when it mattered most. It was about seeing what others refused to see. It was about loving fiercely enough to risk everything: comfort, relationships, peace, for the sake of a child who couldn't protect herself. It was about understanding that hope isn't a feeling. It's work, daily, exhausting, essential work. Rachel kissed Ellie's forehead gently and whispered, "Sleep well, my brave girl. I'll be right here." She left the door open, the light on, and returned to the living room where Lena was reading on the couch. Mother and daughter, grandmother and grandchild, 3 generations of women who'd found their way back to each other through the darkness. Not perfect, not unmarked, but together. And that was enough.